Hello and welcome back to the WNBL Weekly Wrap. My name is Alex Catalano and I'm joined once again by Kristen Sims. Kristen, we're a quarter of the way through the season, 4 rounds down, and another huge weekend of games.
Yes, with some really great basketball again this weekend. And I can't believe we're already a quarter of the way through.
I know some things we said last week came true. Some things, well, expectations got a little bit defied. And one of the teams that's really picked up across this weekend, Chris, and the Adelaide Lightning, we were been pretty down in the first few weeks. We could see them sort of starting to get there last week, but 2 wins on home court this week. They're up to three in a row, and they're starting to knock on the door of that top four. Bit of a big improvement from them this week.
Yeah, absolutely. They really needed the wins. They've got that good roster, so there was probably not really much reason why they were struggling. So it's good to see them getting a few wins and making their way up the ladder again.
It started with their win over the UC Caps, who have had struggles of their own, but the Lightning, I thought in this one, really managed to, well, I don't want to say get their number because the Caps probably had their number for the first half. They kind of let themselves down late, the Caps, but that run especially across the fourth with turnovers and all that. But I thought early transition, the Capitals looked probably the best they have all year.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, getting Jade Melbourne back was a huge bonus for them. So I expect to see them sort of pick that up over the next few games. It was good to see them early, just running that transition nicely again and being able to, probably stick it to a more experienced Lightning outfit.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was pretty happy to see the players that I said could be stepping up did step up in this one. I'm going to count that as one prediction ticked off and did manage to get that one. But Ray Burrell, 20 points. She was really good, I thought, in this one. Shanice Swain stepped up pretty well too. And I said they needed the leadership, and Alex Bunt and Kristen, 13 points, 9 boards, just one off the double-double. Those three I thought really led the way.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I agree that we needed some improvement there from Alex Bunton. That they needed that experienced head, and the same thing. Burrell was massive. In losing their import, they needed someone else to step up, and those 20 points definitely really helped them when they needed it.
About 20 minutes or half an hour after we finished recording last week, they made their signing for their new import as well, of course.
Yep.
Nicole Munger, we got our first look at her in this game. I thought she put in a solid shift without standing out too much. I thought 9 points, 9 rebounds, pretty good return for her first game.
Yeah, 9 points and 9 rebounds coming in. I think she'd only trained, for a couple days or so with the team, and was. I think they were expecting her to help out, but they weren't expecting to actually be able to sign her. So I think Kristen Veal said that there was something to do with the time difference, and she was meant to be heading back to Europe. So it all, I think, has come to plan really well from them. She had a good NBL one season. So if they can sort of see her improve over the next few weeks, I think that's going to be really, really good for them moving forward.
Yeah, I thought all round it was really good signs for the Cats in this game, and I can see them. They've got the Flames next week, who we'll talk about very shortly. They've both showed signs of improvement, but I think for mine, the Cats just that little bit more. I think they're a lot closer to that win than the Flames are at the moment. But that said, they did do very, very well in their game against the Flyers, Kristen. They were just like the Caps, very much in it and leading for big parts of it.
Yeah, I was actually pretty surprised, and I thought that maybe we were going to see a pretty big upset in this one. But unfortunately, the Flames just started to struggle. Their offense got a bit slow, I think, and the Flyers were just able to capitalize on that with their more experienced players.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed that a lot in the last term, and Bet Cole was a huge part of that. She was shooting the lights out in the last quarter. I think part of that was from the Flames end. They left her open a lot. They left a lot of the shooters open a lot for the Flyers, which you certainly don't want to do. They're going to hurt you from the perimeter. But offensively, I think for me, that was the bigger issue. Tiana Munga Kahia was probably the only one for mine who was causing any damage in that last term. Keely Froling was quite good across the whole game, but I think they looked a little bit, like we said, a bit stagnant in that area. And Shyla Heal was certainly a big part of that. 8% from the field. It's really just not good enough from a player who should be hitting more of those shots, really.
I think we touched on her last week. It kind of looks like I think that her confidence is down a little bit.
Yeah.
And she is the main driver of all their offense. So if her confidence is down, well, it's going to affect, I think, the team as a whole. And she does. She holds a big weight of responsibility in that team. And I think when she struggles, she also, I'm going to say struggles again. When she struggles, she seems to want to take on that responsibility, I think, a little bit further, rather than, maybe just resetting, going for an easy shot and
Yeah.
getting that confidence back and just getting the mindset back in the right place in the game. I think she tends to get caught up on hitting that big three. And I think we saw it last week, in that game, that when she does struggle, they do struggle with her.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought she probably could have found those opportunities to get her teammates into the game more. She had the 4 assists, which was still leading for the team, but only 8 assists for all of them across the whole squad. That's really not good enough to me. That says there's too many players trying to run plays by themselves. No one's looking for each other. No one's trying to call plays, which obviously Shyla should be doing if she's playing point for the majority of the game, which she was. And when you're taking 7 shots from 3, you're clearly not trying to get your teammates into it as much. That was one of the big issues for mine as well. Only 2 points off the bench. They're really struggling to find any scoring outside of the starters at the moment, the Flames, which you really need to get the whole squad involved, I think. I look at a player like Vanessa Panousis, who had 0 points in this one, just the 1 assist. She was barely involved off the bench. And while Froling and Willoughby and Magakia, like I said before, are putting up big scores, they're not really sharing it around. So that is where they really need to find that next level. And I think that will be where they do manage to get a win potentially next week, like I said, against the Caps, is a game that both those teams would be wanting to win. So definitely the issues for both of them to figure out in a week's time. But for now, they still both sit on the bottom of the ladder winless. One of the games is around the 2 teams up the top of the ladder, though, Kristen, the Fire and the Spirit. We said last week this was going to be the game to watch, and it certainly was the game of the round. It was a huge test for both of them, and the Spirit came out on top.
Oh, this was such an exciting game to watch. I was expecting big things coming into it, but yeah, that they are so evenly matched. It was just so enjoyable. I think like in the first quarter, especially, they were just going shot for shot, which was just incredible. And you had absolutely no time to look away. One thing that I really, really liked from the Fire was how patient they were in offense. They really took their time to find someone in space, which generally ended up being someone on the 3-point line, and they made some really great deep shots. So that composure from the 3-point line as well saw them match the Spirit when they started to get a run on. And that was just, really beautiful basketball to watch from them.
Yeah, definitely. I thought both of them showed a lot of maturity throughout this game. It's something I think I've noticed in some of the teams that are struggling is that they do sometimes look to run their plays a bit fast, and when they're sort of struggling, they just want to get the score on the board. Whereas these two, often they were both going well into the shot clock, not rushing their offensive plays, really finding the best option. And while it wasn't a high-scoring game, it really paid off for both of them, I think, because there weren't too many times where there were big patches of turnovers or missing shots or things like that. It's clear that these two are the best teams in the comp at the moment, and a well-deserved result for the Spirit. You talk about that composure from 3, and Alex Wilson really typified that throughout this one.
Yeah, definitely made some massive threes, and was a really good option, I think, for the Spirit take away from, Annalie Maley and Kelsey Griffin, who have been like their big two so far this season.
Yeah.
But in saying that, the ability of the Spirit to find, what a lot of people would consider ugly shots was just incredible. If you go back and watch those highlights, they're making shots from absolutely anywhere. If they found a gap, they were taking that spot. And, why wouldn't you? When you've got Annalie Maley, who I think averaged 13.5 rebounds over the whole weekend, well, if you miss one of those shots, she's going to be there to back you up. So it's really great for the Spirit, and I can't really see anyone probably getting too close to them.
No, this was probably the closest anyone was going to get on the Fire's home court too. So they'd probably be disappointed they lacked just that little bit extra to get over the line here. Both these squads are so deep, and the Spirit have gotten even deeper now with Tessa Levy coming back in too. She played 22 minutes, got 7 points on the board, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. So good to see her back in colours as well. We've got a couple of AFLW stars running around now in Monconti last week when she came back in, and Levy now this week. So good to see them both on court, and good to see the Spirit. I think it's just paid off. Their preseason recruiting, they clearly built this squad, and well, like I said, they were bringing the band back together, and they really have here. We've got some of the best players in the comp playing for this team now, so they are on top of the ladder, deservedly so. Another great weekend for them, still undefeated. Another team who's doing really, really well, the Melbourne Boomers. They're just floating along, doing this thing. They've moved up to second with the Fire, losing their game, Kristen, and they got to go back over to Perth and showed the Lynx that they've definitely got their number.
Oh yeah, they I think they've been quietly building while we've all sort of been focusing on the Fire and the Spirit. The Boomers have just been going about their thing almost relatively under the radar, and being led by Kayla George, who's just having another incredible season, after playing with the Opals and taking on motherhood. You'd think she might have slowed down a little bit, but she had a double in that with 23 points and 13 rebounds, and she's just good for the Boomers to see her firing so well.
And breaking records too. She's well up on the all-time scoring and rebounds list. She's number 2 for rebounds. I think she's moved up to number 7 for scoring now, which both of those records, I mean, Kayla's certainly not slowing down anytime soon. She could very well chase them down into the top 5 for scoring, into first place. She's got about 300 before she catches Rachel Spawn for the record for boards. So she could very well get there. I think she might be able to. She's still a freakish player, Kayla, and there's a reason why she's the captain of this squad. She's been brilliant for so many years and just keeps doing so. But the Boomers were challenged early. I thought the Lynx looked a bit better than they did the last time they played them. I thought we probably saw the Boomers take the game over pretty early, but they stayed with them well in the first couple terms before they pulled away, and the Boomers just started making shots from everywhere, and Mia Murray was doing anything from long range, and Kayla, like we said, but they've still managed to spread that scoring out a bit. Kristen, Lauren Scherf with the 15, Sammy Whitcomb with the 20, Chloe Bibby with 12. Another team that is slowly improving and might start to get the wins coming soon.
Yeah, I feel like, where they were in those first few games, they have come a long way. As you said, they're sharing that scoring around a bit more, not just feeding Sammy Whitcomb constantly. And they were actually, trying to take some closer shots rather than just relying on deep shooting, which is good to see as well. That's a big improvement. And it was just, the Boomers are just that next level. We spoke about the beginning of the year, the losses that the Lynx had, and, the Boomers didn't have any of that. So, to run with them for as long as they did, I think showed really good strength from the Lynx. But, once the Boomers got that lead, there was just, they weren't giving that up. So, I think they're definitely on the improve, which is a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. And, not taking so many shots from out deep, it helps with a player like Lauren Scherf, who she is such a good shooter for a big, but you need her presence in the paint when you are lacking some really quality tools in that squad. So I think that'll help their structure a lot. I do probably want to see Alex Sharp maybe spending a few more minutes. I could even see her moving into the starters. She's been always that player that comes off and provides a spark off the bench, but she's so deadly when you can get her to shoot, when you can just feed her, she's going to be putting up scores. So give her more opportunities to put scoring contributions on the board, and I think they'll improve a little bit more, the Lynx. But all in all, I think they should be a bit more happy with what they've done, and I think they'll just keep moving up from here. We spoke about the Lightning a little bit before, but this was their big game in this one, Kristen. We knew the Flyers were missing a couple, LJ and Kayla Thornton both not coming into this one, but the Lightning definitely took the most of this opportunity and not only won, they won big.
Yeah, it was a really tight game again, for most of the game, but the Lightning, who, as we've seen, have been a little bit inconsistent throughout games, just, kept plugging away, and they did. They came out and they had a really, really good win, where I think a lot of us probably were expecting the Flyers to get over the top with this one.
Yeah, for sure. They clearly were missing LJ, and they lacked a bit of that presence in the paint, which was always going to, I think, happen when you are missing, obviously, one of the best players of the modern generation of basketball. But they took advantage of it, the Lightning, and the way the imports combined in this one, I thought Bell and Monroe together, this is the best showing that they've put up as a duo for the Lightning so far.
Yep, absolutely. I have to agree. Great for the Lightning, meaning they don't have to rely on Steph Talbot so much. Kirsten Bell had 23 points and 14 rebounds, and Jacinta Munro had 22 and 10. So that's a huge chunk of their scoring just down to those two. And it really, really paid off. They struggled a little bit in that second term, but when they decided that they were going to put the foot down, it just made a massive difference.
Yeah, for sure. And Lauren Mansfield was one who last week had a lot of that scoring on her, and she only had the 11 points in this game. I thought, much like with when Talbot doesn't have to score big, it's probably good when Mansfield doesn't either. They are really spreading it out. And that was one of the major criticisms we had for the Lightning early days, was they needed to get that offensive rotation right. And I think they certainly have a lot more now. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from them. On the Flyers end, while it didn't end well for them, obviously it was pretty close to most of the game. And I thought Maddie Roche was really, really strong in this one. 33 points across her 2 games this weekend, when it seems like a lot of her focus and on her role has been being a defensive player, but I think they looked a lot better on offense when she was just a bit more free to shoot and take those chances.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't have a shortage of people, but I tend to agree that when she was given reign, they did look a lot better. And hopefully we start to see that happening a little bit more.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed with the result, the Flyers, but it was probably inevitable given the outs for that game. They still sit in fourth, so they're well and truly in a good position coming into the next section of the season. Flames and the Spirit was the final game of the round, Kristen, and like we said earlier, the Spirit staying undefeated, which is just incredible after the way they started this season. But the Flames kept with them. Like we said, they looked a lot better, let themselves down, much like they did in the first game, and just dropped off in that last term again.
Yeah. Again, I thought we were going to be in for an upset here. But the Flames were just not able to hold on, and the Spirit showed, I think, why they're sitting at the top of the ladder. And we just saw again that the Spirit were able to just, make those shots out of nothing, and hit them, and that's where they were able to really punish the Flames. As we know, their defense is definitely suffering, and the Spirit were able to expose that when they needed to.
Yeah, for sure. Another great performance. Annalie Maley just had a hell of a weekend all around. 26 points in this one, which was massive. 11 rebounds, another double-double for her. She's well and truly in the MVP contention once again. I think a couple of weeks ago I was high on Tiana Hawkins, but I'm probably back on the Maley train here. Kristen, I don't know who's ahead of her in those calculations right now.
No, I agree. I'm all on the Maley train again. I don't think there's been anyone who's been that consistent for the whole time so far this season. And knowing her, I can't see that changing anytime soon either.
No, she's just a freak of a player. And whenever she suits up for the Opals next, she better be getting more minutes, because she's certainly raising her hand and saying, I deserve it right now. She's one of the best players, if not the best player in this league. So suit her up, get her in the green and gold more often. We'll take a look abroad as well before we hit the end of the show. I wanted to highlight the performance of a college baller over in America. Georgia Amore, she's playing for Virginia Tech in her junior year. She hails from Ballarat, She set a record for the first ever triple double in Virginia Tech history, which I can't say I'm a college basketball expert, Kristen, but that's a huge record for the young lady. And I watched a bit of her highlights. She's got a fair bit about her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a triple double for anyone is massive, but she's got her name now in the history books. And yeah, I agree. Watching some of those highlights, I expect that we might be seeing her potentially down the track in the green and gold as well.
Well, yeah, already at under 16 and under 18 level, she's represented Australia. So she's clearly caught the eye of selectors at national level. Like I said, junior year, she's still got her senior year to go. She's already set one record, led the ACC for three-pointers last season. So she's got a great shot on her. And from watching that game, some of those step back threes she was making, this kid's going to be something else if she can get into high level basketball, which no doubt in my mind, watching her play in that game, she certainly will be. Alana Smith, the other one, Kristen, I know you've kept your eye on her across the past month, was named the November MVP over in the Euro Cup. She's killing it in Europe.
Yeah, she's had a few, I think, players of the rounds and now player of the month. She's averaged, I think, 21 points, 10.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and 2.7 steals. So that's a really, really good month. I know I'm still missing watching her regularly in the WNBL, but it's good to see that she is smashing it over there still. And again, someone else we hope to see in the green and gold heading towards Paris as well.
I think she definitely will be. She's been smashing it over in Europe at the moment. So hopefully she keeps up that form throughout the rest of the year. We've also got a bit of a roster update over at the Townsville Fire, Kristen, and it's a great story. We heard a bit about this woman's story earlier in the year, but Kate Gaze is back in the WNBL.
Yeah, really great to see. She's going to come back to the Fire again, signing on for a short-term contract, so just for the rest of the season. But they've had a few injuries, so she'll slot back into that team really nicely. I think, obviously, playing there before. So it's, again, good for the Fire and good for basketball to see her back on the court.
Absolutely. And we could see her as soon as, well, we probably will see her as soon as tomorrow. The Boomers and the Fire at the State Basketball Centre. That's going to be a ripping game. Few really big ones across this week. We mentioned the Caps and the Flames earlier. Someone's got to get their first win, so that's going to be another huge one. The Flyers and the Fire go head to head at the State Basketball Centre as well. And the Spirit and the Lightning. Some really ladder defining matches here. I don't want to make any early calls. I think I did. I'm trying to remember back. I believe I did tip the Spirit against the Fire last week, but I'm interested. I think the Boomers and the Fire is the big one here, Kristen. Which way do you see that one falling?
Oh, I'm probably going to stick with the Fire, I think. Both sides have really big weapons. But I just feel like the Fire are just a little bit more polished and composed.
Yeah, I don't mind that call. Getting Kate Gaze in there in a team that was only 2 points short of the ladder leaders is certainly going to help them as well. I did see this fixture last year, and the Fire came back from being about 15 points down at halftime to beat the Boomers in their championship year. So you never know. I think they're very, very capable of doing it, and I cannot wait for that one. That's the Wednesday night game too, so make sure you watch that one if you're not in Melbourne. Be the ESPN game of the round, so cannot wait for that. But that wraps up a huge weekend of hoops in the WNBL. Looking forward to the weekend ahead. Kristen, thank you for joining me as always, and cannot wait for the round ahead.
Me either. Thanks again.
Make sure you tune in to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel for more WNBL weekly wraps every single week, and of course over on the innersanctum.com.au as well.